Well, I
Started
started
that
because I was looking
at-
when I was looking at your thing. I was like, oh, Cal Poly. I was like, cool.
Yeah,
This is
sure.
like a perfect time to bring it up because then I was realizing it kind of is polarizing, and also it's a lot of shots at all the other schools, which like cool f them. But
Right.
yeah, it's polarizing. So I don't know.
Welcome back to Top Shelf Outbound Leadership Podcast. Today we have Kelly Lyons, SDR leader at Cursor, who has also led SDR teams at a lot of really great companies, Segment, Monte Carlo, and most recently Parabola before moving over to Cursor. And another very exciting topic, we're going to be diving into the best practices for running one-on-ones. So Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Sweet. And I know we just talked through it. I'm actually waiting to crack it, which I didn't know if you were going to have it in the glass as well, but really excited for what we're drinking today, Kelly. We would love to hear what it is and why it's important to you.
Yes, we're drinking a Topo Chico and lime. I don't have the fancy glass bottle. I wish I did. But we were just chatting about this. My husband and I lived in Austin a little over a year ago, and ranch waters were our drink of choice at the time. But I've since kind of moved away from my cocktail drinking days since having my first daughter back in December. So I'm going for the NA version today.
Love it. Well, thank you for bringing this on. This is one that I have had before. Sometimes we have drinks that I've never even heard of, but I enjoy this one. Refreshing. So cheers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever put a lime in it. So that's new.
It's a nice little garnish. Makes it a little more fun, I think.
You've never put lime in sparkling water in your life?
I've never put lime in a Topo Chico. Specifically.
First.
Are you doing it today?
Hell yeah.
I love it. Perfect.
All right. Like I'm already enjoying it and I feel great. Cool. As Joey mentioned, right, one-on-ones. Excited to dive into this topic. Obviously, every single leader should have a recurring one-on-one, but I think a lot of people use them very differently. You mentioned that if you get one-on-ones right, performance, promotions, retention, all that improve. And so just as high level as it gets, like what separates a great one-on-one from average one-on-ones?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the temptation with one-on-ones is to use them as a forecasting call and as a very tactical session to go through meetings booked, stage ones, what do we have coming up on the calendar, all of those metrics that candidly you should already know walking into a one-on-one as a leader. We have all of that data in Salesforce on a dashboard. The most effective one-on-ones are really getting into the weeds with your SDR. I think the best leaders aren't afraid to jump in and actually kind of do the role with your rep. So pick an account that your rep is looking to break into for that week and go through the process with them. What's your hypothesis? Show me the emails that you've written. Let's listen to some calls and let's actually get into the process together. I think the best one-on-ones are teaching the SDR how to think when you're not in the room versus just going through metrics that you can easily pull async. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's a good point to kind of like follow up on because Joey and I were just talking about this. It is really easy to just dive in and start like talking numbers. What amount of your one-on-ones do you sort of let on the SDR, GTM, BDR on their side to bring to the table versus you kind of giving answers and sort of leading, discussion? Like, is it like a 50-50 balance? Do you want 75% them, 25% you? Is it different per individual? What's the thought process on the balance?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different based on the individual and where they're at in terms of ramp. If it's a brand new SDR, it's like their first couple months in seat. I'm certainly going to come with more to chat through and provide more structure. But fundamentally, I believe that the one-on-one is the SDR's time. This is their opportunity to bring anything that they want to talk through, any questions, any strategy, things that they want to work through as a team. They should come prepared with an agenda to that meeting. And candidly, if they don't have an agenda, we shouldn't even meet. It's really their time. And so I like to set that expectation up front.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. And I think I just recently started a new role and am taking over like kind of like medium-sized team that's been doing things their way for a while.
Yes.
And one part of that experience for me is like, I'll admit that I'm 2 months in, and like some of my like top performers, like they know their process a whole lot better than I do at this point. Being still pretty new and like kind of letting them control the topics of their one-on-ones, but then also that kind of leads to me maybe like not having all the information I need at times. So I guess how do you kind of like meet in the middle there? Like how do you allow them to control the agenda for the one-on-one while also making sure that like you're still covering their process and like getting into the weeds of how they're doing their job, as you said, is important?
Yeah, so I like to structure my one-on-ones in sort of 3 buckets. So we will start, well, I guess 4. First thing is the SDR's agenda. So we'll always start with any questions or items that they want to run through first. Then we'll get into results. I just kind of taking a step back, I think in sales, results are always the number one most important thing. But my belief is that if we spend 90% of our energy and effort really focused on the system and the inputs and the things that you can control and refine every day, the result will follow. And so we run through results, but the goal of that is really to look at the system. Did anything change week over week? Did we see a drop in connect rate and uptick in reply rate? And then we can dig into why is that? I'm very big on letting the data kind of lead in terms of where we're going to spend our time from a coaching perspective. So having that data ready as a tool is certainly key in making sure that, you know, we're getting what we need to out of that session together. But I think, you know, there's a difference in using the data as a tool to drive the conversation and the coaching versus spending the whole one-on-one just running through numbers without any action associated with it.
Yeah. So definitely like walking in prepared.
Yes.
Knowing the numbers that you are just going to inevitably ask about if you don't. I think that is a really good way to just kind of like show up for your one-on-ones. Is there anything that like any questions that you ask in every single one-on-one that are like pretty consistent?
Yeah, it's a good question. I always ask what blockers are you running into, and what's made last week either successful or not so successful based on the metrics. So we do have like a portion of our one-on-one doc that's dedicated to reflection on the week prior. I'm also a big believer in giving feedback in every single one-on-one. And I think that actually goes both ways, manager to SDR and SDR to manager. There should never really be a surprise if something's going really well or if something's not. That line of communication should be really, really open every single week. And so we always reserve time for some feedback as well. And transparency is really big for me also. And I think, any great relationship is built on trust and transparency. So try to be intentional about incorporating that into every conversation.
1,000%. We actually had someone just talking about, and I'm blanking on who it was, just like how important trust is in the relationship, again, on both sides. I think that's key. So obviously totally. With like the framework or the structure being like very similar each week, like, can you walk us through what that exact like one-on-one framework is outside of what you just shared? And like, if I'm a new manager, or even if I've been a manager for a while, what's something that I should steal from your process and implement it like immediately?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I actually like to separate tactical one-on-ones from what I call weekly workshops. I think it might not always be feasible given the size of your team, but if it's possible, I really do like to do this because the numbers are so important, and having kind of something a little bit more tactical is key, but then having separate time to work on cold call coaching or email writing is really important as well. So first, I think taking a step back, when you have a new rep start on your team, I think it's so critical to understand what motivates them. I have every SDR go through an exercise of defining their why. And this will change over time as you get into the SDR role, as you start to set your sights on that next role after this one, just depending on where you are in your personal life as well. I think all of that is very combined. But I think you have to understand that from a manager point of view, because different things are going to motivate different people on your team. It might be being at the top of the leaderboard. It might be the paycheck. It might be the promotion. But your coaching should reflect whatever that is. And then in terms of structure, I think start with SDR items, run through results. Again, that's always number one. Where are you? Relative to quota for the month, some reflection on the week prior, and then development opportunities. And if you can, reserve a separate 30, 45-minute session on a Thursday or Friday to dive deeper into that development area. I think that's even better. And then lastly, feedback. So my feedback for the SDR's feedback for me.
Okay.
What are some development areas, and like what kind of sessions have you set up for them?
Yeah. So I think the key ones are cold calling, email writing, account research, meeting quality is one as well. How do we make sure that we're booking meetings that are actually converting down the funnel? But there are also sort of softer skills that we can work on also: executive presence, building your brand, AE relationships. Maybe it's learning the product and really digging into the market as a whole. I believe that great SDRs are constantly developing 3 key pillars. First one is the SDR skill set. So those are all of those tactical things I mentioned: cold calling, email writing, how to do the job really well. Second thing is having a really strong understanding of the market. How does our company fit into the broader landscape? I think you need to understand the world of your buyer if you're going to connect with them over a minute-long cold call. And then lastly is the product. And this is something that, I'm always challenging myself to up-level on as well, especially at a company like Cursor. Things are changing constantly. But we need to make sure that we are experts on the product so that we can build credibility with our prospects quickly as well.
Yeah, that's a great 3 pillars. I like that. Not to backtrack too far, but on the structure side, and also you mentioned, right, I don't like it when there shouldn't be any surprises. Sometimes there might be. I don't know. Is there any boundaries that you set in a one-on-one? Because again, I think all of us probably know or can think of a time where maybe it got really emotional or it felt more like a therapy session than a one-on-one. Is there any boundaries that you have set or that you think you should, or sometimes they do just go off the edge and it is what it is? Or
yeah, it's a good question. I think if you're setting the expectation from day one that, we're both here to make you successful as a professional and to make the company successful, and you kind of have that shared understanding from day one, even from the interview process, if you can, you really should care about your people as people first. That's my philosophy anyway. And so I think, things will come up that you might not expect. I've been in those conversations that are tough to have. But that's okay. I think that's part of being a leader, is being able to kind of sit on the same side of the table as your rep and let them know that you're on the same team, you have the same goal, and you're going to coach them through whatever they're experiencing. So in terms of boundaries, not really. Maybe I should think about that a little more though.
Or not. I don't think Joey and I didn't have any boundaries back in the day, and look at us now.
True. You got your really cool sweater. I'm jealous.
Another thing you mentioned was making sure you're focusing on their motivations and know what motivates them, and kind of leaning on that in your one-on-ones. I do think, especially in a role where an individual can grow in their career as much as an SDR role, that's something that probably most SDR leaders love kind of anchoring to. But I think it can be really difficult to kind of figure out how to include that in really tangible day-to-day struggles of the SDR role. So can you give some real examples of how you've incorporated people's motivations into one-on-ones on things like process and performance?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the most, perhaps natural path for an SDR to take is moving to an AE role after SDR. There are tons of ways that you can apply those skill sets to your SDR job. And I love the philosophy of, just do the job that you want to have one day. Like, start to incorporate those behaviors into your day-to-day workflow. So if I know that a rep on my team is really motivated by stepping into an AE role within the next 18 months, let's say, we can be intentional about, okay, you have this meeting coming up on Tuesday. How have you prepped your AE for this? How have you given them context, prep notes to set them up to be really successful on that first call? Like, let's talk through that. And then after that first meeting happens, what can you do as the SDR to be involved in the steps following that first meeting? Can you ask your AE if you can shadow the demo session? Can you send a follow-up to the prospect to actually get them ready for that next call? Can you loop in additional stakeholders and think about multi-threading that account like you would if you were an AE? So I think it's about those little behaviors that make you more successful as an SDR, but also kind of get you ready to start thinking about that next role, and build your brand along the way too, which I think is really important.
Yeah, totally fair. What if I'm motivated by crushing my role so that I can have more time off? How does that change? I'm just curious. I'm just saying, like, I'm sitting in one-on-one and that's my motivation is PTO.
Yeah. Well, then I think it's working backwards from quota. Like, how can we get you there as quickly as possible? If we're looking at the levers that we can pull to book meetings, the phones, LinkedIn, email, where's the biggest gap and what tweaks can we make to increase your productivity there so you get there even faster?
Yeah.
And I think it's like, have conversations about it. Okay, so you want PTO? Why? Like, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? Make it real, make it visceral so you can visualize it, and actually have something to work towards.
Definitely. Yeah, no, it's just playing a devil's advocate. So what, again, like I think a lot of people maybe are not happy with the way they're running their one-on-ones or not getting the results that they want. What do you think is like some of the biggest mistakes that people are making today? And I'm like a brand new SDR manager. I have 5 one-on-ones tomorrow. What would you probably lead with as far as like some mistakes that they might be doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll say too, I don't get it right every time by any means. There have been several times where I walk away and I'm like, oh, that didn't feel super productive. And I think it's important to reflect on that. And then again, ask for feedback from the rep. Like, how can I be more of a resource to you moving forward as well? But I think one misconception is that the one-on-one is meant to be a time to micromanage and to just kind of inspect every little thing that the SDR is doing. I think, as an SDR leader, you need to manage the number, and you need to lead, you need to motivate, you need to inspire as well. And I think, that comes back to knowing your people on a personal level, knowing what motivates them and being willing to kind of get dirty with them and prove to them that you're not going to ask them to do anything that you're not willing to do as well. So I think micromanagement is a big one. If anything, it should feel like the opposite of that. Second thing I would say is don't just go in there and tell your rep exactly what you want them to do. I think it's really important that SDRs actually are coming to their own conclusions. You're hiring really brilliant, really bright people. Coach them on how to think and how to diagnose their own performance and how to come to solutions on their own. I think I've found that when I kind of do some discovery and ask questions to help my rep get to the answer on their own, they're much more likely to take ownership over that and be excited to go and implement that solution into their process on their own. So I think ask great questions versus just giving the answer.
Nice. I definitely think like the best one-on-ones I've had are the ones where I do a lot of the stuff you're saying, like go in prepared, but also like kind of flexible to meet them where they're at, and like turn off my second screen and like just focus in on their problem and like trying to understand better.
Yeah.
What are some ways that you like get in that headspace in a busy day? Like, I guess what puts you in a headspace that leads to a bad one-on-one? And then like, how do you avoid that?
It's a really good question. I think for me, if I'm focused on the number and I'm looking at the dashboard and I'm hitting refresh on Salesforce and, I'm in the headspace of, okay, we've got this gap. We have to fill it. I need you to do XYZ to get there. And I'm really only focused on the output. That's where things go south. I think I have to kind of take a step back and remind myself that we're not going to, it's like that Atomic Habits quote, right? Like you're not going to rise to the level of your goals. You're going to fall to the level of your systems. And I need to remind myself of like, okay, we have a process for a reason, and we're going to look at this from a first principles perspective. What are we doing every day? Which part of that puzzle might be breaking if there is a performance issue, and how can we take small steps to actually make improvements there? So I think, only being focused on the outcome shuts off, at least for me, like the creative part of my brain that's actually going to find those solutions.
I love that. I couldn't agree more. I think that's spot on. But actually, it has me thinking something, and I don't know if this is true. This is a question for you. Is Cursor a no commission, like just like the set, like the Anthropics and the Open AIs? No, it's different. Okay.
We do have commission.
Okay. Because I was super interested how that would impact a lot of this conversation of like, I'm making the same if I'm destroying versus I'm like kind of skating by. But okay, that's good to hear then.
Totally.
Cool. Okay. So I know you went to Cal Poly Slow, right?
I did, yes.
So I'm starting my first question with something that I think is actually a polarizing take that I have. Joey, you haven't heard this before. I have this take that the best go-to-market reps, leaders, whatever, in the SF area, more specifically, just because it's local, either came from UCSB or Cal Poly Slow. That's like one of my you just look at doesn't matter. Again, it could be a head of sales CRO or like an SDR that's just like killing it. Like anywhere in between, those are the two colleges that pop up the most when I'm looking at those people. My wife went to Cal Poly Slow. I went to UCSB, so I'm also very biased, but it doesn't matter. And so like one of my last like professional questions is like, do you have like a polarizing go-to-market leader, SDR leader take that you think, is something that you believe in and that it might not be everybody's cup of tea? I want to hear it.
It's a good question. Ooh. I think mine is probably more centered around hiring. This is another topic
Perfect.
that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
But I think, some of the best hires I've made throughout my career were not your traditional SDR profile. I think it can be easy to default towards like, the star athletes, the folks who had 10 super impressive internships, and those things are great. And those candidates can be fantastic as well. But I think take a chance on the industry switcher, on the career switcher, on the fresh college grad who's really hungry and motivated and eager to make an impact. I index much more towards those attributes than what's on paper on a resume. And so I think that might be a little bit of a hot take.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. And Joey and I both very different backgrounds. I hired Joey 6 years ago.
No way.
Yeah, and he was coming from the nonprofit world. Total career change. Cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. Any other hot takes from you too? I'm curious.
Well, I haven't shared mine on here either. We've asked a few people this, and I've been ready to share mine. I'm excited. I'm excited, Matt.
Well, I started because I was looking at your thing. I was like, oh, Cal Poly. I was like, cool. This is like a perfect time to bring it up, because then I was realizing it kind of is polarizing, and also it's a lot of shots at all the other schools, which like cool, F them. But
right,
yeah, it's polarizing. So I don't know. What's yours, Joey?
This might be like really polarizing. It might not be. But I see so much stuff on LinkedIn that's like, if you're an SDR leader or a sales leader and you don't take cold calls, like you're a hypocrite.
Oh,
I don't think if you're a sales leader, you're like, you have to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that mindset is like almost like condescending to the SDR role.
Right.
It's like the whole job is like earning people's time. So for there to be this idea that like, if you lead SDRs or lead salespeople, you have to just give people your time.
Right.
Is like not in line with what the role actually is and how hard the role actually is. Mm-hmm. Like if somebody catches my attention and they're selling something relevant, I will give them my time, of course. But I don't feel like you have to just like answer every cold call and like respond to every cold email just because you lead SDRs. So that's mine.
I like that. You got to earn it. Break through the noise, for sure.
I think
100%.
I completely agree with you, obviously. And I'm notoriously for saying that, where I'm like, I don't answer my phone ever for especially spam call, but I'm like, that's why you got to find the right channel. They hit me up on LinkedIn with a good message, I'll respond to that. So I'm like, you got to find your person's channel. But either way, I think that the big issue is the people who like do answer the phone and like yell at the people or like say just some obnoxious stuff. It's like you're a VP of sales and it's like, what? Come on. So like those people are the worst.
Yes. Don't be an asshole.
And if any of those people listen to us and they hear that, like, please message us and tell me why you're not the worst person. Because those people suck. But okay, cool. Yeah.
All right, and then the final question that we ask everybody is, outside of work, what is one thing you would like to accomplish in your life?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, I know we were just talking about this earlier. I always have had an aspiration of starting my own podcast. My sister and I have talked about it. So I don't know. I think that is something I would like to accomplish at some point.
Hell yeah. Well, what would you and your sister's podcast be about?
I've always just loved kind of, I'm a big believer that you can learn something from everyone, different walks of life, no matter what they do. And so, I love the idea of just interviewing a bunch of different people from very different walks of life, different professions, and just learning from their life story, what they've experienced, their learnings, their takeaways. So nothing super serious, but I think it would be fun.
I love that.
I would listen to that. That sounds great.
I love it. I'll let you know when it drops.
You should do it. We can tell you.
Yeah, I need all
few things you need to do to like set it up, and then after that, you just have to show up.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's consistency and just doing it. But to your point, COVID was like the perfect time because everyone's like, "All right, I got some extra time now. What do I do?" Life only gets busier, and now, as a mother, like, I hope that you find the time to do it, but I hope you do it.
Yeah. I love that. I appreciate it. Well, thank you for doing this. I know I mentioned this before, but I think more conversations like this are so important. There's not enough of them happening in the SDR world right now. So appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for
Thank you so much for joining.
As bubbly as the Topo Chico, I feel like you are, Kelly. So I appreciate your time. And
I love
it.
Yeah, this is fun. Thanks for having me.
Cool.
Joey, you got to sign off.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening.